Good morning. We have our reading this morning, which is obviously very fitting for today. It's from John chapter 20, verses 1 to 18. Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and found that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance. She ran and found Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one who Jesus loved. She said, "They have taken the Lord's body out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." Peter and the other disciple started out for the tomb. They were both running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He stooped and looked in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he didn't go in. Then Simon Peter arrived and went inside. He also noticed the linen wrappings lying there, while the cloth that had covered Jesus' head was folded up and lying apart from the other wrappings. Then the disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For until then, they still hadn't understood the scriptures that said Jesus must rise from the dead. Then they went home. Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw two white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" the angels asked her. "Because they have taken away my Lord," she replied, "and I don't know where they have put him." She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" Jesus asked her. "Who are you looking for?" She thought he was the gardener. "Sir," she said, "if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him." "Mary," Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, "Rabboni," which is Hebrew for teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus said, "for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, "I have seen the Lord." Then she gave them his message. I don't know about you, but when I hear the Easter story, there seem to be so many characters involved, so much noise, and so much confusion. So much so that at times I like to concentrate on just one person and try and connect with how they felt, what they saw, and what the first Easter meant to them. So this morning, I'd like to share with you a reflection from the 12 Days of Easter by Woodrow Cole, and this is the reflection of Mary Magdalene. We need to remember that sorrow filled Mary's heart first at the cross and then at the tomb. The one who had changed her life, who had loved her as no one else ever had, was gone. Then one word changed it all. Mariam. With that, Mary knew her Master and her Lord was alive. He was risen from the dead just as he promised. So in adoration she worshipped the living Saviour, and here is her reflection. I knew Jesus for a number of years. I was frequently in the crowd when he taught about love and joy and peace. I watched him raise the dead, heal the sick, and cast out demons. But more importantly to me, He changed my life. There were other women in our group whose lives he had changed. What a difference he made for so many of us. We could not get as close to him as his disciples, Peter, James, John, and others, but we constantly felt the warmth of his smile and the gentleness of his voice. We knew he loved us as much as we loved him. Now it had all come down to this. I stood before his cross and I watched him die, his body racked with pain. I wept at the cruelty I witnessed. Those Roman soldiers were so inhumane. My people treated him no better. The chief priests and scribes ridiculed him. They hated him so much. Yet Jesus said, this was the hour for which he came to earth. All of us who saw him through the eyes of faith knew that he was laying down his life. These men were not taking it from him. Then the strangest thing happened. One of the members of the Sanhedrin appeared at the cross. I think his name was Joseph. He came from a town just 20 miles northwest of here. The man showed the centurion an official-looking paper from the governor that gave him permission to bury Jesus in his family tomb. The other woman and I followed because we wanted to know exactly where they took him. We really wanted to prepare his body appropriately for burial, but the hour was getting late. The Sabbath began at sundown. We could not do anything more until it was over. We barely had time to do the essentials. My friends and I decided to return to the grave and finish our work as soon as the day of rest was ended. We loved him too much not to give him a proper burial. As soon as the Sabbath concluded the following evening and the bazaars reopened, Mary, the mother of James, Mary, the wife of Cleopas, Joanna, Susan, and others of us went into Jerusalem. We bought the spices necessary to anoint Jesus' body. Our plan was to go to the tomb early the next morning. The sun was just about to peak over the hills of Moab when we started out. We were far down the dark path to Joseph's tomb when we realised we had forgotten one important detail. Joseph closed the tomb with a huge stone. How could we ever move that stone? We nervously chatted about this as we hurried along. We agreed there must be a way. Someone said guards had even been posted at the tomb. When we arrived there, however, we were shocked to see that the stone was not there, at least not over the entrance to the tomb. It had been rolled away, not simply rolled back, but taken out of its trough and tipped over. It lay about 12 feet from the tomb, and there was no sign of the guards. More surprises awaited us. While we stood puzzling over the mystery of the stone, 2 men suddenly appeared dressed in dazzling white robes. These were not the togas of the Roman soldiers, nor were they the long robes of the Pharisees. In fact, I sensed they were not men at all. They were angels. We were so frightened that we fell to the ground. The angels encouraged us by reminding us that Jesus said he would rise again. One of the angels told us to look inside the tomb. While the others did, I ran to tell Peter and John. Within minutes, I returned with them, convinced that someone had stolen the body of Jesus. The linen garments were lying there, neatly folded in their places, but the tomb was empty. Peter and John and the other woman quickly ran from the scene. I chose to remain behind in the garden. I was stunned. What had happened to my Saviour? Where had he gone? Could it be that he did rise from the dead? Or was his body just placed elsewhere by the soldiers? Who knew? I began to cry. Then I heard a voice behind me ask, "Woman, why are you weeping?" I assumed it was the gardener. "Sir, what have you done with him?" Although now it was fully light, I could not see because tears blurred my eyes. He called my name, Miriam. That was my Aramaic name, the name by which my parents and friends addressed me. A gardener would not have spoken Aramaic to me. Neither would a Roman. It could only be one person. I turned to my risen Lord and in adoration said, "Rabboni." My heart filled with a sense of humble reverence. My Master, my Teacher, my Saviour and my Lord stood before me alive. Of course, I was one of the 12 voices of Easter. How could I not be? It was Jesus. He was alive. He was risen from the dead. I was one first of his followers to raise my voice in adoration to the one who conquered death. I will not be the last. Thousands will follow. Are you one of them? Come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord.